introducing people.
Okay, if that's not a problem to you guys.
Okay, that's not a problem. That's fine.
It's not a
100%.
problem for me. It's only that I'm being thrown out now and then as well.
So I think, I mean, it's fine if there's no video. That's also 100% okay.
Cool.
Okay, thank you everyone for joining us today for the 5th informal chat on tourism in Namibia. We have got Gondwana, O&L, we've got NWR, got a couple of regulars, and I'm sure there are a lot of people watching as well. We want to see how it has been for some of the bigger companies, but our focus today is what can we do in terms of value addition for local tourists, local families, kids, couples? How can we attract them to the local deals, local places, and just see what what ideas are there out. We're going to start with Stene from Gondwana.
Hi, I'm Stene Watermeyer. I'm the direct sales manager for Gondwana Collection Namibia. Thank you for having me here today.
Thank you very much, Stene. Ivan.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ivan Kasozi. I'm General Manager for Mokuti Etosha Lodge Properties. Thank you very much. Good to have you. Good to be here.
Thank you very much, Ivan. And if you can hear from Epson at NWR.
Hi, good afternoon again. Thank you for having me here. My name is Epson Kasuto. I am the head of marketing at Namibia Wildlife Resorts.
Thank you very much, Epson. And Noah, would you like to say some introduction?
Sure. Actually, they call me Cody. I just put Noah because of the phone that I registered. I'm actually a tour guide, of course, a learning process, and then I'm also emerging operator. I think Joseph will actually let's say confirm on that. And I'm mostly I'm trying to actually do into birding and then the desert, living desert, let's say here in the coastal areas and something like that.
Thank you very much, and Noah. Sorry, I forgot. I couldn't hear your name properly. Will you mind changing it?
Of course, I will. I'll do that.
Stene, from Gondwana's point of view, I mean, how has this been so far? I mean, whatever you can tell people out there, what's been happening.
You know what, like we're all hit hard. It's something that you said earlier as well, that we're all in the same storm, no matter what kind of boat you're in. I think there's not one property or one establishment that can say they haven't been affected by this. And obviously, as we say, this isn't just an empty lodge. This is the support of your staff. You know, this is all a rollover effect on things. And I think one thing I can say is I was very appreciative to our leadership for keeping a very level mind and really sitting back and making decisions with their eye on the future and not just now in this crazy chaotic time, but actually looking at tomorrow and making decisions based on that. You know, sitting back, reassessing things again, like taking positive changes that we can from an unfortunate situation like this. Seeing if there's things we can do differently, being flexible and malleable.
Yeah, thank you very much. Epson, how is NWR doing in that sense? Because it's more of a state-owned enterprise.
Oh, yes. I think I do not need to repeat what my colleague just said now from Gondwana. Basically, we all hit the same way. As we said, different boats, but we're all in the same storm and we have to navigate through. Obviously, with NWR, it's the same everywhere. And I could not agree less with where we say, let's look at ways of, or let's rather use this pandemic as an opportunity for us to rethink how we're gonna do business going forward. I said earlier before we started that, for example, a few years ago, even a few months ago, would not think of having a Zoom meeting. It was just not necessary, and maybe the need was not even there. Now, with the hit that we have received, we have lost in terms of revenue, we have lost even, it's so many fronts that we have lost as tourism establishment that we cannot say. When I was looking at, for example, just doing a little bit of figures, we are standing at -98 this year compared to last year, for example. And that tells a very big story. You have 1,000 employees, you need to take care of them. You have all the other responsibility and obligations, whether they are regulatory or operational in nature. You are hit in all those fronts, and you need to now pick up the pieces and look forward. And this is why we are saying, for example, we appreciate this forum that says local is Lekker. And in fact, this is the only thing that we have at the moment, given that the borders are closed. And this is why it is important that what you are saying, that we need to create additional value for our local tourists in order to make do with what we have at the current moment. And I think we have already taken the lead with the special that we're promoting, trying to save families. We have gone through a situation we have never experienced before. Come and relax a little bit at some of our lodges.
Thank you very much, Epson. That's actually quite shocking. 98%. I mean, it's massive.
-98.
Yeah, that's. But in terms of local tourism, are you getting a lot of requirements? A lot of people asking for quotes for local tourism?
Oh yes, of course. There have been tremendous interest now. We only came back to office on the 4th or the 5th rather of May, when the first phase of the lockdown was lifted. And it's a second week now. And looking at the bookings, I think the interest from the locals are quite there. In fact, already we opened our booking system with a special last week Thursday. And already on Friday, there were people that were willing to travel to some of the resorts. Yes, so the interest is there.
Epson, if I can jump in quickly, I heard there was an email circulating, and I thought to myself, wow, I'm actually very happy for you guys last week on Monday or something like that. Or Ivan, sorry, Ivan, no, yeah. That you guys were fully booked for last week, 1 or 2 days. Is that actually the case with locals?
Well, I don't know where you were looking for the information. Maybe it was online, because what we did is with some resorts, we have closed them off. And I think this is the 2% differential that I'm talking about, because at some resort, we had to host people for quarantine through requests from Ministry of Health and Social Services. Maybe it's one of those cases that you are referring to.
So it's probably because it was closed for quarantine, because the people were quarantined in the south at Hadap. So it shows full because they don't want anyone. Yeah, they closed off bookings for that.
Yes. Not because people don't want, but we closed off to make sure that our leisure travelers don't mix up with quarantine guests.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think also that that conflict also came with some of the old booking which were not cancelled yet. So some of the booking were still pending, and then since you guys were working with skeleton staff, so some of the bookings were not really released for the dates that people were looking for bookings.
Exactly.
Either way,
and even today, I had to cancel. Sorry, I had to cancel some bookings that were due to arrive today. But the agent who made the booking is in no position to say where or how to change it. As you remember, we have relaxed our cancellation policy, and we are accepting cancellation very close to the actual date of arrival. And of course, as what Joe just said now, Joseph, is that it is true that because of the lockdown, we're working on skeleton stuff. And as a result, it is possible that some bookings that were supposed to have been moved were not moved. Either we did not receive the email in time, or we received the email in time, but we're simply not able to move them. But what we did is with our booking system, we're able to restrict those bookings.
Thank you, Epson, very much. Can we now have a quick introduction from Ivan at O&L?
Ivan.
Thanks,
yes.
thanks, Nurupesh. Maybe just a bit of an update from our side. Obviously, very much in the same space with everyone who has just spoken. I think end of March was really the impact of COVID, where when travel restrictions began and borders began being closed, and there was an exodus of guests that were on tour. I think we began to feel, business levels going down, and definitely April demonstrated a real impact of not having business at all. That obviously is relevant for the Strand Hotel, Mokuti, and then of course Chobe Water Villas, which is in that region with Kasane and the Vic Falls area with the closing up of the borders that side. Midgard as well has been affected. So we have all been affected as the 4 properties, but the way forward obviously had first to deal with issues of safety for staff, and how do we move forward. So that was very important. The learnings to do with how you remain safe in the environment as you prepare to open up. So some training has been taking place, obviously internally, get ourselves operationally ready from a safety, hygiene, and sanitization perspective. So that was a very important side to try and ensure that we manage in line with what WHO has been recommending in many of the correspondences. And then obviously, as stage 2 came from the state of emergency, statement that His Excellency made, we opened up this past week the three properties, which is the Strand Hotel, Midgard Country Estate, and Mokuti, with the bounce back promotion. This is really targeted at that domestic market that we are all speaking about, to try and get and encourage our domestic travelers to come at what may be considered affordable rates. But yes, we are very interested in relating with everybody and understanding how do we create an exciting travel destination for our local business. But we definitely remain forward-looking as well, with the hope that once the African borders open, it becomes the next step now to look at how can we entice Africa as well to travel.
Okay, thank you very much, Evan. We've also got Gerard van Eden from the Sun Kuros Group. And they own Danfilion, Windpump 14, and they've got a new lodge at Sesring. That's something I'm sure he can introduce himself.
Afternoon, everyone. Sorry I was a bit late. Yes, we've got the Dead Valley Lodge there with the Sesring Mushana campsites, and then we've got Danfilion, and then we also run Mile 14. As with everybody else right now, remote lodges, the lodge for now we're keeping closed. Campsites opening up, and Mile 14, as it is a very favorite, a lot of people already went for the campsites. And also, as with everybody else, we're trying to run some specials. And then we have been approached by 1 or 2 agents where we are looking at the period around September, October, if the borders aren't open yet, to look at potential specials for Namibians. But once again, then it's got to be worthwhile. It's, as most people know on here, it doesn't help you have a lodge open with 10 staff sitting there waiting. Potentially one guest shows up, you're feeding these staff. It costs you 10,000 a week to be then semi-shut down with everybody on site. So for now, campsites are running, but for the time being, unless we, like I say, if we get group bookings, we open up. Otherwise, for now, we stay stuck where we are and hope.
Steny, do you have something that you would like to add to that regarding Gondwana?
Like he was just saying, also staying closed, closing our lodge at the moment. There was, there's a lot of people saying, open your lodges. People want to travel, but we need to remember it needs to be viable to open that lodge. It's staff that needs to be there. It's, there's a lot of stuff going on in the background. So to open a lodge, a 50, 60 room lodge for 10 people to come stay is just not viable. As much as we would like our locals to be able to float us completely, or like the Namibian tourism completely, that's always not possible. If you would say let's open all our lodges, every room can't. And then I'm just also saying with the whole things, there's a lot of specials running and that kind of thing. And from our side, obviously, we've been thinking what we can offer, but we didn't want to reinvent the wheel. We just want to continue with the same thing we've done for the past 15 years, and that's offer our locals not just a lockdown benefit, but a more permanent benefit with our Gondwana card.
That's a very good idea.
Yeah. So we're just continuing.
Excellent.
Like I said, we're continuing with what we've been doing so far. It's been a permanent instant with us to offer locals reduced prices. And so I think we're lucky because we have that in place already.
In terms of education, like we talked about value-added services. I had a chat, for example, with Snakes of Africa, Francois Thiat. He can't join us, he's in Kavango. But he said he's got a whole network of snake handlers, trainers around the country, and he would like to offer them to network with the lodges. So if you do have families and kids, and they can offer these kind of snake identification, just things like that is where we want to see what else can we do more.
Exactly, added value. We've also been looking at stuff like, like you said, for kids, to specifically create a game drive that's aimed at kids specifically. So it'll not be a 3-hour drive, it'll be shorter, but it will be more interactive. So it will be educational, it will be a sensory experience. Like you say, like added value, like looking at more of a niche need.
If I remember correctly, Mukuti used to offer something like that in that similarity of kids. When you bring kids to the lodge and then they take them around and then show them all the kind of animals that you can find them in the area. Ivan, could you be able to elaborate more onto that? Do you guys still offer that kind of service?
Yes, definitely, Joseph. When looking at the family business, I think that's over the years with international business. Obviously, that had been overlooked. But when we had the seasons where families traveled, the role of our guides who would ordinarily take our guests into Etosha kind of was extended into making sure that if there was some form of activity we could do with the kids, whether it was taking them through on a guided tour to the reptile park, or a little bit of a birding trail, because we've got various birds on the property, that could also be done. But I like the idea that Steny has spoken about, of how can you create a game drive that is kids specific, because obviously when you look at those long game drives that you have for the adults, kids have got a shorter concentration span. You want to try and have very quick, impactful experience, but very, very much a learning experience as well. So I appreciate that one that you have suggested. So definitely, we are still open to doing many things for the kids.
Ivan, that sounds awesome. I just want to jump in here quickly with a question that has been raised already, because it is exactly specifically in terms with accommodation establishment. Steny and Gerard, I know the O&L guys are operating already, but if you guys can give us a bit of an insight into, you say for now staying closed. Yes, I know that's for May, and for May most of the places are still closed. But in terms of timeline and so on, when do you think you're looking at dusting down the feathers, you know, dusting out, shaking out the feathers and getting going again for the local guys to join in?
Yeah, like I said, we are open for camping and camping to go right now, but we are hoping to open our lodges in the first half of June. Still to be confirmed, and of course it's also possible having so many properties that we might do a systematic opening, but yeah, like I said, that's still to be confirmed by our operations.
Okay, so it's also looking at about Jan. Gerard, and from your end, what you guys are considering?
So right now everything is up in the air. If all goes well, we're hoping in July, but the point is there's no point in planning for that. Like I say, some agents have contacted us for specials they want to do for Namibians, but then we need to have confirmed group bookings for us to make it viable. Then we'll be open, but that all depends on the market. Yes. We've got agents that's sitting holding on to their September, October bookings. That's not letting their bookings go. They're keeping our books full. People are looking for specials. So now we're also in a catch-22 there. The agents don't want to give up their old bookings, but they want us to give them specials for Namibians. So right now we are a little bit in the middle of everything as well with that.
In that catch-22 situation. In terms of the specials, and I just want to highlight on that while we're talking about it, because I mean, after the introductory and when are we opening and when are people opening, the big question that remains as well is in terms of the Namibians, there's been a lot of controversy about when international travel is going to be possible and how good it's going to go. Yes, a lot of people say it's as from September or October, or most say 2021, the rest say 2022. So there's a lot of controversy going in terms of that. So my question for you guys in terms of the establishments as well would be how is there a gut feel at this point in time that you guys have? And how do you think it's going to be handled with the locals? And how is it going to change when international travel actually then picks up again? Just so that we can have a look at about how the future is looking for you guys, your gut feel. Not going to hold anybody against it, but it is an informal chat after all. So that would be interesting to know.
I think it's also, even if those borders open, we've got people who have been retrenched. We have people, you know, who don't have the usual finances. So we are hoping that it'll pick up, but it'll obviously not just bounce back to where it was. I think there will definitely be a period, even when the borders open, that we really have to do hard work abroad to really instigate travel again.
And I think if I may add to what Stana is saying, obviously it's difficult now to precisely guess when the borders or when tourists will start to flux in, even after opening the border. But I think what is clear is that we have a challenge and we need to start doing something. If you take from our side, for example, what we did is we adopted a phase approach. And perhaps this is why some of you were saying last week certain resorts were closed or fully booked. Because obviously you cannot run all the 26 resorts at the moment at full capacity. And as a result, we said Etosha is open. People must go to Etosha. There's a lot of queries and interest for Etosha. For that reason, we have kept Etosha. We've also kept Sources Play, for example, or Sources Dune Lodge open for the fact that Sources Play is high in demand naturally. And if you want to do any type of training, whether it's heritage to do or biodiversity or ecosystem, Sources Play is the area. So basically, therefore, we have a number of resorts that are opened, and we also have a number of resorts that we are keeping closed. If you go to the site and you want to make a booking, you might not find availability. But what we are doing internally is to find a way to sense inquiries regarding those resorts and keeping them somewhere on an informal log so as to determine whether there is demand and how soon we could reopen them. But certainly the big question is what is our best guess as to when we would have travelers in the real sense of tourists. And my guess is we probably need to give ourselves another 6 months from now on. And after the 6 months, then we can start to expect probably travelers. And this is why
international.
Internationals, yes, international. Yeah. And I think for the locals, it's right now we are in stage 2, which allows some sort of flexibility. But then the question is again what Steiner said. You have an issue of schools only reopening on the 3rd of August. Some parents being forced to do homeschooling. Will they have time to travel? Maybe if there's value adds, as we said, maybe they might be able to find time and travel over weekends, especially the upcoming long weekend, for example. But is that one long weekend enough to warrant the opening of all resorts for the next 2 months? I don't know.
Exactly.
Definitely, that's about.
We've got Nadia, you've got your hand
yes.
up a while, and then Epson also had his hand up.
I've used my
opportunity already.
Oh, okay. Hi, Nadia.
How's it going? Sorry I got on a bit late. And I'm also like super distracted because I'm about to head out into the field. So I'm like trying to coordinate. But just to introduce myself, I'm Nadia Leroux and sort of representing all kinds of things, but predominantly trying to keep people up to date with the communal conservancies and tourism going on there. So seeing as everyone was doing a bit of an update, just so that you guys also keep sort of updated on what's going on. There's 2 funding mechanisms that are going in right now towards assisting communal conservancies. We know that their income is tourism reliant entirely, so they can't pay their staff, and predominantly they can't pay their community game guards. So Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism is taking that quite seriously, and the focus is on having game guards having their salaries paid, and also support organizations to help them with logistics and vehicles, because we've got to keep on top of this anti-poaching in case it sort of flares up. On that note, I wanted to just sort of remind everybody that the reason why everybody should really keep track of what's going on in the communal conservancies is that Namibia's biggest sort of eye catcher to what we're doing is the fact that we have so much free range wildlife. That's the big attraction to our country. So, you know, that's what brings people here is our conservation successes. So all of us need to sort of support in any way that we can.
Nadia,
in terms
just
of tourism opportunities,
Nadia, right now we are talking about what additional value can we be able to add to those community. Can you be able to give us like a head up of what value, what can we bring to those people? What suggestion can we suggest to those people to add the value to what they are already doing, like currently existing campsite? What can we do for them in that way?
I'm getting there.
Sorry.
That was my next no worries. That was my next point. I mean, I just sort of, everyone is talking about how tourism is affecting them at the moment. So I just wanted to, that's how basically poaching is going to be the big result of no tourists in those areas.
Yeah, Nadia, like, I wanted to say, like, I agree with you. I agree with you on that. That's like a, that's what I also meant, like, in the background. There's a lot of stuff happening in the background when it comes to tourism. And from an angle from where Gondwana is, where we were already supporting so many conservation efforts, it was really important for us to continue with that, even in this time, and hopefully inspire others to also, you know, keep their commitment during this stage, because it's, you know, people were shaving off where they could, but this was definitely an area where we felt that, it was not an area where we would cut, it is definitely something that we would keep supporting regardless of what's happening.
Yeah, sure. No, I mean, well done. I mean, those are the lodges that are you know, in the joint ventures. So what can Namibians do? Well, first of all, we've got our conservancy campsites. There are quite a few that are operating. I think some of the well-known ones is Namwa, there's Nkasa Rupara Community Campsite. I'm not sure the status of the Puros one, but there's a number of community campsites throughout Namibia that locals can visit. I think what I would do in terms of being able to find out the status of who's operating, I will share, NAXO will probably be the best people to contact, and I'll share the phone number with you guys, whoever, to put that on, so people can see if they want to look at visiting community campsites. I think NAXO would be the best people to find out what's going on. So yeah, you've got your community campsites for those that want to go camping and adventuring. A couple of ideas to contribute on the education side of things. Just, you know, what can we do to keep people engaged? And I think there was talk about kids and education and all of that. So I did this many years ago with actually mostly retired people, but it's quite a lot of fun. In Mudumu National Park in the rainy season, it's like there's nothing. So what we did is we initiated a treasure hunt, and we got maps of the area, and it was given to the guests, and they dictated where they wanted to go, and they had to, along the way, collect a number of things. You know, I can't even remember what they all were, but it was, you know, take a photograph at an elephant crossing. And it was really fun. This is a way families can get engaged, especially with their kids. They can take control of where they want to go on their drive with their guide. It becomes interactive, and they have to collect a number of fun things along the way. And that really worked. I've got two more points. One was, if there's any local researchers in your area, bring them to the lodge to do presentations and chats. There's a lot of projects on the go. I think these people as well would be absolutely keen to come over if you had a certain number of people and do a presentation at your lodge about the research that they're doing. And then my last point is, you know, we're seeing this whole virtual online education. I don't know exactly how it works, but I think teachers make small videos and send it to their students of what they need to do. So another way is for guides at lodges or private guides to also do small videos focusing on an animal or an ecology or something interesting, and send those to the schools. Get in touch with the principals, send these short little videos to them and let them circulate it to their students as something additional the kids can look at and get off all the other rubbish that they're all sitting on after school hours.
Thank you very much, Nadia. I just quickly want to, there's some very good points. I'm sure a lot of people listening would definitely find that of a lot of value. Wanted to introduce Wilco quickly as well. He's just joined us. He's from previously In Touch. He used to done My Namibia, and now he's doing Buddy, which is also travel-oriented platform. Wilco, would you like to introduce it quickly?
Hey guys, how's the press? Yeah, quite a few things going. Thanks, Apresh. Thanks for accepting me into the group. It's awesome. I think you guys are doing a stunning job here, especially in these times, and it's good, you know, keep momentum going, keep ideas flowing, you know, the right minds connected, bring to life some awesome experiences. So yeah, I'm typically in the digital world. I represent a company currently called Buddy Industries. And Buddy is a development R&D hub, and we specifically built a few products, and one of which is, I think, very well targeted for Namibia, also for locals and foreigners. It's Travel Buddy. So it's basically a virtual assistant travel assistant chat app. with all sorts of features and functions, amongst others, payments, rewards and loyalty, which is great currently for locals. Obviously chat and advice, SOS, we've got a feed. So what we've taken is sort of the best out of a few apps. And if I say feed, it's like Facebook, but without the nonsense. It's really focused and featured only on tourism and only tourism in Namibia. And with Heiko, he'll know we've got a sort of a white label product that we've created for Destination Swakopmund, but it sort of interconnects into what we like to call this ecosystem, which is the Destination Swakopmund app with same features. You can pay, you can chat, you've got the travel assistant help. And I think in this space, what I've learned in tourism and with my.na and directories, etc., is you want to connect back to the human factor. And the ability that somebody can advise you, and everybody that comes from the tourism space would agree that the moment you've got these tourists and they've got books open and laptops open and apps open, but the moment you sit 5 minutes with them and say, hey buddy, who are you? What do you like? By the way, this is currently in, this is good, this is not, I would suggest this, the guy takes it. And so the ability there is to on-sell what's currently hot and what's currently working and what needs sort of coverage and what's good, obviously, for the customer, or targeted for the customer. So this platform really has a lot of, and it's what it's about. It's to create win-win for everybody involved. And one of the things we've done now, which I think would also add a lot of value, especially to conservancies, to foundational sort of platform sites, is when you use the product, there's something we call smiles that you earn back. So whether you're a traveler, whether you're local, and this is kind of like a loyalty currency. And these smiles you can obviously re-spend in the ecosystem. You can pay for the next beer here or accommodation there. But more so, you can actually use these smiles to donate. And by default, if you pay a certain service providers, these miles can also automatically be donated. And not just to one specific cause, it can be to the cause that business believes in. It can be to the cause that user believes in. And so it really opens up a whole level of opportunity to interconnect one communication, but also in that communication to start taking payments, accept payments, push rewards, incentives, etc. But it's obviously much more than that. So yeah, I'll get you guys lost.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Supresh.
But Tene has a question.
I wanted to add to what Wilco said, and I agree with him when it comes to adding that person, a personal touch to something. And we were talking about donations now. Having the Gondwana trust that we have, we've really been having great responses. And that's one of the things that has been so positive throughout this negative situation, was how people have stepped up to the plate. Where we had our usual projects that we would usually support, we've now completely changed over to only do or to focus mostly on food help. And I mean, between March and now, we've been able to give 2,000 meals, and that's just because of our public and the fact that people are stepping up.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Another thing to say in the situation that we are at the moment, the best thing we can hope for is to walk out of this, number one, successful again, but also with all our values in place.
Yeah, definitely.
That's a very good point.
On that, Ivan, with O&L also doing a lot of charity drives and other projects, have you guys looked at something focus on this?
Yes, and Rupesh, quite a bit of corporate social investment programs took place from March. I can speak on behalf of the Strand Hotel that did some community engagements with the soup kitchen in some of the disadvantaged communities of Swakopmund, where our chef, Dallas O, and his team did a couple of meals and went out and worked together with our sister company, which is Pick and Pay, to interact with the disadvantaged communities through some soup kitchens and some meals. This side of Etosha, we did as well soup kitchen and a couple of meals specifically targeting the first responders, who are the police and the defense forces, who are very much involved in controlling the access points when people are traveling, as well as the O&L clinic en route going to the north. So yes, more and more ideas are being generated internally by the teams that were on site during that quiet period, and we will continue to look for more ways of contributing to the community.
Thank you very much, Ivan. I just wanted to find out now, there are a lot of local guides, experts in different areas who, astronomy, bird watching, bird identification, we can talk about a lot of different fields. Is this something we can channel, strategize, saying, okay, if you focus on astronomy, go to the nearby lodges, let them know about, what your specialty is. So if there are families, they can be given an opportunity to learn about something while the families arrive, instead of, preactively promoting it. Has anybody looked at that yet?
Absolutely.
Something like that?
Yes. Yes. Like that's something that you look at, whether it's astronomy or, a photography day out or anything like that. But it all comes with its own challenges when it comes to facilitators and stuff like that.
Yes.
But that is definitely something that I'm sure all of us have in mind.
No, the reason I'm asking is also we want to see if we can use this platform maybe to get a list of specialized guides and, have it a public list so
Perfect.
everybody can use it.
Perfect.
Okay. I think Epson, any comments on what we've chatted so far?
Well, I think the one thing that we've been very strong on during this time, as difficult as it was, is that we have been accommodating suspected cases, not suspected cases, sorry please, not suspected cases, but we've been accommodating people that are either on isolation or on quarantine, on instruction from the Ministry of Health and Services, particularly at Hardap and Cross Barman. We have catered for, as we said, it's informal. I don't have the exact numbers of the people that we have catered for, but this is one area where we have been very strongly active. We haven't been actually involved in specific social responsibility activities. Although, of course, here and there with our what we call EnviroKids program, we have also helped a number of people, especially formerly disadvantaged. But I think the bigger focus was more on hosting quarantined and or isolated persons, especially those that returned from abroad during this time.
Okay. Also, while we hear John is here, I haven't introduced him yet. He's doing the hot air ballooning trips. And maybe you can also say a bit more about local trips that they've planned.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon, everybody. Well, I've been joining you guys mostly, so it's good to stay tuned. The thing is, with the ballooning, we are obviously focused on trying to get, we've always catered for the local market since we started our initial, the company. But now more than ever, obviously, we want to make it also more affordable at the moment. Where we are based, we're based our flights mostly out of Solitaire, and we have some partners that are flying in Soccermund. But because of logistics and because of some of the operations or some of the lodges that are closed at the moment, we are going to try to kind of central our operations together, probably in the Swakopmund area. That'll be easier for most people to move around, and obviously I think more people will be moving around towards the coast or closer towards towns. We are available for flights anywhere in the country. So if you have a private function, if it's either a wedding or honeymoon, whatever it is, and you want to just have a private thing, or a corporate event, we are able to move around. So just let us know, and we can obviously always cater for you and quote you on that. On the other hand, we do want everybody involved as much as possible. This is why we also mentioned earlier that we try to get everybody in the tourism sector involved, but they must understand that not everybody's going to be able to, and then whoever is able to is not going to be making a grand total money. We're just trying to keep ourselves alive and trying to keep the wheel going. So in terms of that, I've invited some tour guides also to the group. I'm not sure if they're coming on or they're listening on Facebook. I've spoken to some people and said, listen, bring in your knowledge, like we said earlier, bring in whatever knowledge you have, and let's put a package together. I know that some of the skydiving companies are doing a really great package. I mean, if you look at the price, it's just absolutely fantastic. You have 2 nights stay, you have a skydiving, you have quad biking, you have camel rides with the Desert Explorer guys. So people are already getting onto this, and I think from this local is Lekker kind of group, it's already starting to initiate the kind of creativity out of a lot of people. So yeah, I do believe it's moving in the small terms. But yeah, I'd really like to get more people involved as much as possible, and let's not have that give up mode yet.
Thank you very much. On that note, we've also got Michelle McLean joining us from Miami. She's also been a lot of conservation, educational. Yeah, we've been brainstorming some ideas, and she also wanted to give her thoughts about what's been happening. I know Michelle missed a lot of the chat, but Michelle, would you like to say a few words first?
Sure. Sorry. Because I missed out on the chat, I think maybe just let me listen a little bit into what you've been discussing, or maybe just give me a summary of what you've discussed. Sorry, I'm late. Everybody.
No, I mean, everybody was saying how we are all in the same storm, but maybe on a different boat, and then looking at ideas on how we can add value by means of game drives for kids, different activities for families and stuff. And we've just been brainstorming on that, because it's also critical that the local tour guides, smaller operators who are listening in, know that this is an opportunity for them to make packages based on these things. So, if they put together an astronomy package for a family, obviously it will be different than what somebody else is offering. So that's why we're just putting together ideas, yes.
Absolutely. I think always from the education side, having the Michelle McLean Children Trust and having done work with Wilderness before, educating kids on conservation and having sort of group outings for children in education, that is still very, very imperative. I think it's not something that should just be done now because we want to promote local as Lekker. I think that's something that should always be done, that our children are constantly getting out into our country, getting to know it culturally, the conservation efforts that are made, and really educating them. They are our leaders of the future. They need to understand what we need to do to preserve and conserve our beautiful country. So in terms of, I think creating packages for maybe even schools, speaking to the Ministry of Education. So not only the private sector, and I agree, families should get out there with their kids, and there should be special game ranger orientated trips for kids. You've got to bring it down a bit. It obviously can't be as mature, a lot of these education trips. So bring it down to the kids level where they really get to explore and experience things. I'm sure you've already discussed this, but then you also, maybe we can approach the schools and through the ministry and say, okay, let's see how many outings we can do with kids to educate them. Probably not something too difficult. Are you though looking at, for the lodges and the game ranges to be making money? Because I mean, obviously that's a concern as well.
Well, I mean, they're going to be making more than they would otherwise because of the current situation. So this in a way will also keep them busy, and as long as they're doing what they have been doing, I think it also it'll give them hope that the industry is moving somewhere rather than nothing happening.
So just a question to you: Do you think, is anybody out there sort of under the impression that maybe the ministry, if approached, would give some funding to this for school outings?
Well, I think at this stage, I don't know if anybody else wants to comment on that. Epson would be able to say a bit more.
I think, given the current situation where we are or what we are facing now, I can't think that government will come out and sponsor something like that. But it has always been, and I think it is in the interest of the management of those specific schools themselves. And perhaps this is where we as tourism entities maybe can come in. Not necessarily, although we know our existence is based on profit objectives, we probably have to say, what is that we can forego to make it possible for most of the schools that otherwise without government funding would not be able to participate. But I cannot imagine a situation where government at this point in time will say they will be funding school outings, for example.
So thank you very much for that comment. So here's an idea. What if and we know that everybody's stretched right now, but to try and keep the children busy and to keep them engaged, what if this were to be a campaign, a soft campaign that you put out to the businesses, that you say you only need a small amount of money to partner with schools. So a school is sponsored by a particular company just to get the kids out there. And I don't know how much the cost would be, but I doubt, it would be that much. It would be a great help towards, towards education and for the kids.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Look,
I think from my understanding. Sorry. Yes. I was going to say that from the onset, our approach was focusing on family, and then maybe doing something which is value adding to the whole experience by providing something specific to the kids. Now, my gut feel is that we would be able to have good family specials, get families at our resorts, but then we should be able, whether we do a shortened game drive for a quarter of the price per kid, just to give them that experience. Because if you look in some consumer behavior theories, kids would have the power if they have liked, for example, that activity that you have done for them. And they may be in a position to time and time again sort of convince their parents to go back to those resorts. In a nutshell, I think that is what we can do. But I like what Michelle is saying. It sounds great. Perhaps it's a matter of looking at what are the mechanics required for us to go about doing something like that. Is it an easy thing for each individual company to say, I'm taking school X, and this is what I'm gonna do with that school X? Or is it a matter of local is Lekker promoting that platform or being the driver of that particular platform, and where you say, this is what I have organized, land arrangement is being done by tour operator X, and as they are going from this to that, maybe now specific tourism or accommodation establishment are coming in and saying, this is what we offer and this is what we do.
That's great. I think, sorry, Napesh, I just wanted to mention the reason why I mentioned school trips is that many parents are going to be going back to work, I believe. So this might be an opportunity, to keep the kids busy. But I do agree with the family packages. That's phenomenal. That's a fantastic start. Great.
So Napesh, I've got an idea that I think kind of ties into this. Maybe We've been working on an e-learning module, and it's more around not so much academic, it's mentoring. And from a lodge perspective, or from an activity perspective or hospitality perspective, I really see there's a space. If you look at the German apprenticeship model, there's a space for teaching from a mentorship perspective. So learning by doing, learning by looking. You monkey do, but this case, you learn by connecting to people. And what I'm seeing is establishments bringing to life these modules, these e-modules, and it's typically video-based, but you've got sort of a test theory in there as well, where they kind of, one is about guiding, and this could be, at a Gondwana lodge, it could be at any type of lodge. The next one is, like you said, astronomy. The next one is cooking, but cooking at this specific place. And the kids can connect to a local experience, and they can connect to a local mentor that teaches them something. Afterwards, they do this quiz, this test, and they even get sort of a certificate from this mentor sort of platform. Local is Lekker, whatever. And the kids that show real sort of sustenance and that show real eagerness and that are proving themselves to be, wanting to grow in this space are automatically candidates, that are up and coming and possibly can be embraced in the space of, hospitality, trade, etc. And obviously now you can bring in the sponsorships from businesses, you can bring in travel experiences that you can win, you can, connect, because then there's the value attribution is from business to user, and it's, you can really market this well also into international markets, etc. And you're creating empowerment. That's what I always feel is the seed that we as locals need. Like you guys have started now, there's this plant of the seed and it's talking and we're growing something. But if in a child's mind or in his experience, you can plant the knowledge, and this knowledge is planted through a mentor because he connects through him, through the energy, through his expression, through what he's teaching, there's so much value contributed. And there's such an opportunity to grow, especially now in this pandemic space where people are online, they've got time, etc. I'm just throwing this out there as something, we've got basically the shell and stuff done, and I think there's an opportunity to interconnect this.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's sometimes using things that we already have. I'm using an example of our vegetable gardens that we have at our Damramupani Lodge. They're already there. All we've done is now taken the opportunity to have kids actually go and take the vegetables out of the garden, go to the kitchen, have a little kitchen session with the chef, get your hands dirty, that kind of thing. It's this thing kind of experience, but we're just including it.
Did we lose her, or is she still there?
There you are.
Sorry? Okay. Was that the comment? It just kind of faded away and then we couldn't hear anymore.
Oh, no, sorry. No. My whole point was just that yes, we can create new things, but there are existing things that are in place already where we can just include children and just customize it slightly just for them. Hikes, like the Fish River Canyon hikes. That's a perfect example for a school trip, really getting kids out there, doing some physical activity and seeing a part of the country that a lot of locals never have the opportunity to see.
The thing is, a lot of the tactic, if I can add to that, what we feel and have actually not only discussed, but the comment that has come across is the way that the method of thought and the tactics are changing for us to be able to actually support the local needs and the local travelers that are still able to travel. And Cindy, I want to add to what you said about the vegetable garden, not only for children, but people actually partaking in a lodge activity, saying, well, join us for a weekend. We'll have less staff due to the expense and the exposure that the company's faced with, but it's going to be a proactive meal basis. It's something completely new, but you go and fetch your own vegetables, bring it in, check it, join the chef in the kitchen, make your own food, you know, bring your glass of wine, basically, have your whole experience along with it. And it's not only for specifically the children, but also the whole family or even just adults that want to go. But the demographic and the mindset changes a lot to how we are experiencing it in the hospitality industry specifically, and how we can adapt. Not all lodges have self-catering, not all lodges have camping, not all hotels have those capabilities. So how can we add value towards that? And this is coming from speaking on behalf of some accommodation establishments, whereas they say, look, we can offer the most excellent and awesome experience for the locals, whereas we used to be a bit more focused on an international travel, but of course we're open to everybody that we can, but we know how the Namibians like to do their own thing, and they like their independence, and they like their this type of mindset. So we can't cater for them. That's exactly where we then say, well, change the demographic, change the mindset. If you can actually adapt, and I want to commend you on what you said there, because bringing somebody basically into your kitchen is like bringing somebody into your own home. But that's just what we're going to have to be doing, because, hey, that's how we are. We enjoy that. So nobody's going to say, well, you know what, I don't mind carrying out my own plate or my own washing or dishes or whatever, but the whole experience of actually visiting there, that's something to lead on. That's something that we're focusing on as well at the moment. Have the people join. Daar's net lekker soos 'n kombuis sessie nie. Sorry for the guys that know the Afrikaans saying, it's a kitchen session. It's part of our culture that we have here as well. Sitting around a campfire, doing all those types of things. There's one property that we're changing where we're saying, there's pre-foods that will be made, or if you're going to come as a group for the weekend, tell us what food can you bring. So we've got one exclusive lodge that that has 6 rooms, 12 people, or 20 when it comes to mattresses with a family. So come as a group, you tell us what can you bring with, and that's how we'll bash this thing out and say, make a weekend of it. Do a farm excursion, do an animal excursion, learn about it. There's hiking, there's looking at somebody that does abseiling, for example, at the time where we said there wasn't somebody before there that used to do abseiling. The guys that do abseiling tell them, there's a bungalow, use it, stay there, camp there, buy your own food, because you're not working in any case at the moment, but we'll promote your services for people to come and actually experience your house. Learn something from it, have an experience, change the whole scenery. And I think we're all at this point going towards that direction. And that's awesome to hear, because that's how we'll survive the whole thing at the end of the day, in terms of Namibians and also local as Lekker. And also something new that we can offer the other guys when the international travel goes again.
Thank you very much. On that, anybody else want to chip in?
Just Rupesh, I really appreciated the school trip and family package ideas that have been generated. I think the idea as well that came to do with specialties that guides across Namibia have, and how it is that they can add value, especially now, because quite a number of them are freelancers. If there was a way in which that database and their specialties could be availed, that could be very, very helpful to operations.
Sorry, what I was saying, absolutely, we'll be very happy to take the lead, since everybody's on the group, or a lot of people on the group. We can put out a survey or a link for people to, say, okay, well, I am a guide, I'm specialized in this and this, and this is the area I am at. We make it a public database. So, I think it'll help everyone. And even once the whole, COVID thing is done, it also gives them an opportunity to find jobs quicker if there is a database. We did get a complaint, there's no freelance guides database in Namibia, which is something we want to have a look at. Any other points regarding what's happening currently? And is there something you guys would like to tell people in Namibia what's happening. Before that, sorry, Nadia has a hand up.
Nadia has a hand raised. Nadia.
Yeah, I had to raise my hand double there. First of all, Joseph, your background is the best one of everybody's. I'm looking at that poiki, and I'm telling you.
Wait. There we go.
Oh, local is Lekker. Guys, I've got two last things to contribute, and then I'm sorry, I've got to go. Like I said, I'm getting ready to go back into the field, so my life is a bit crazy. But one thing, someone was talking about bringing in specialist guides to lodges that could offer, their skills in astronomy and all that kind of stuff. I wanted to add on to that not only is that a great opportunity to get our private guides back into working, but at the same time, they could be offering training to guides that are at the lodges. So a really, really cool collaboration. And I think something that would just be, again, along the lines of what this forum is about, and sharing and promoting each other. So there's an extra added thing to that. And then the other thing just coming to mind in terms of material for kids and keeping kids engaged, I know that a lot of our conservation-based NGOs, they run school programs already, and they've got fantastic database stuff on their websites of things that kids can download, from coloring in little things to, and these are things that lodges could look at, download themselves, and use that material, so we're not developing more. So that's just, yeah, another thought. And then I have to say bye.
Thank you very much,
sorry,
Nadia.
Nadia, what is that website, Nadia?
So, Michelle, there's a number of them. I can help put together an initial list. Whoever needs to contact me on that, I must get that NAXO information. So I can start on a list of organizations that I know already have material, and it's all free material. It's on their website. Just download it. So
yeah,
I'm not going to name them all
I've just sent you our general email address for the Local is Lekker platform. There's two things which I would greatly appreciate from you. One would be the communal cooking regulations, which we spoke about. Look, I know under stage 1, stage 2, there's still a lot of things that are very strictly in place. That's why a lot of people are only kicking off mid-June. But any and every information you do have, send that through to us on that email address, because that would of course help every and any establishment thinking of doing this. And secondly, like Michelle was speaking about, those organizations, and you was mentioning the organizations actually offering that, if you can compile a list for us with that info on the guys are already offering that free info, then of course that would be a major contributing factor in terms of getting the info. So whenever there's a moment, please send that through to us, and thanks for your input in that regard. And yeah, enjoy the field. I think some of us are jealous.
Well, I'm going to try and
I'm jealous already.
Onto this panel as I can. So when I have reception and stuff, I'll try keep engaged.
Awesome. Enjoy, Nadia. Thanks so much.
Bye, Nadia. Have fun.
Safe travel.
Thanks. We've also got Ingrid here. I don't know if she wishes to introduce herself or.
I'm coming now. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes. Hi, Ingrid. Yes, we can.
Okay, I'm from Damarana Safaris in Swakopmund.
Okay.
Hi.
Cool.
How is everybody?
Hi. Yeah, good.
Hello,
How are you?
Ingrid.
Okay. I've been listening to you. Very interesting. I don't really have anything very special to say, but there was a lot of food for thought. And being on the French market, there is one thing that we are doing now for our guides in June. I think we're going to start in June. They're quite busy now with a lot of maintenance work. But we're probably going to start some French lessons in Swakopmund. And I think if I do, I will also post it on the WhatsApp group and try to offer it for a really minimum price for tour guides or even tour consultants to join. We have a medium-sized conference room that we could use. It's a lot of air and a lot of space, so we could do small groups training, I think. And yeah, the other interesting element that you mentioned is maybe to approach schools, although I'm not sure if people will have the budget to pay, even if we make it at a minimum price. And then the third thing that is interesting, but we will contact most of the companies as soon as we are on. We discussed with Lloyd Ulrich. I think some of you might know him from that time, and he was also a mentor for the guiding qualification when it was in process a few years ago. And he approached us. We're going to work together to do basically a guiding course linked to COVID. So where we will implement, train guides for social distancing, do a workshop on what can we do in terms of standard as a tour operator to improve our service in terms of any hygiene measure that we must put in place to have the clients feel secure. So yeah, that's something that we would also advertise if we do that. I think Lloyd was ready to do that also for free, the guiding course, and the idea would be maybe to train some guides that could themselves train more guides and try to do it at a minimum cost or at no cost at all.
Thank you so much, Ingrid.
Thank you.
Thank you. Epson.
Okay,
Are you...
I'm going to mute my audio. I'm going to mute my microphone.
Okay, Stene, you said you have to leave.
I also have to run. Thank you so much for having me on the platform.
No, thank you for joining, absolutely.
And I'm keeping an eye on the platform on your Facebook.
We are going to talk about conservation on Wednesday again. So if you want somebody from Gondwana to join on that, it would be awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Thanks, Stene.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Right. Epson, you're muted. Yes, Ivan.
Just to thank the participants and the team, and just to also say thank you for allowing me to participate, and looking forward once again to connect with everybody else. Very, very informative session, and much appreciated.
No, thank you, Ivan. Look, I mean, it's been live streamed on the group as well on Facebook, so we're getting a lot of questions and ideas on there as well. So I'll send you the link if you want to go through, and it can help you as well and others if you want to reply to them. And at the same time, conservation, if you can join us, or somebody from O&L would like to join us on Wednesday.
Thanks very much indeed. Bye all. Thanks very much. Okay, then cheers. Bye.
Thanks. Epson.
Yes. I was also saying I'm quite happy to have been part of this discussion. I know, fortunately, because of COVID, we need to change our mindset. I think Heiko was saying that quite a lot of time. And this is for all of us in the tourism industry. And I think I will join the platform on Facebook going forward, so that I keep close to what discussions are ongoing on a regular basis. And of course, Joseph was saying I should send more notices of specials. He's not going to send me an invoice for that. So, guys, thank you so much for the platform. I don't know how much time you still want to
Much appreciated.
Stay on. Yeah.
I think it's about, it's an hour and a half already, so I think it's about time. But I will update you on the next chats. If you're more than welcome to join as well.
That would be lovely.
The important
Thank
thing
you.
today was just to recap. I mean, that is to this Epson. We love what you guys are doing for the industry. The specials are awesome. We know that we have some info that we're getting from the establishments. The idea today was to actually plant the seed to see the normal as we knew it is out. That's non-existent at the moment. So how are we changing our perspectives in terms of that to see how we can accommodate and move forward, especially with those establishments where we are still able to do it, whether coming from a schooling perspective, whether educational, whether special services, whether additional services. And those are destinations that need to be serviced in terms of those interests. So everybody's input, I think, has been valued and noted. And I think we can definitely revisit this topic again in about a week or so. At the moment, we're still stage 2. Stage 3 is going to be a bit more lekker in terms of the restrictions being lifted even more, especially for our local markets. So we're going to have to keep building on that. And also we're going to set the example of maybe changing how people from abroad and people from across the pond are going to be able to see how we do things. I don't know, Michelle, maybe you have some thoughts on about how the people would want to. I've gotten a couple of people from across, from overseas that have said, our experience, we'd love to see how do the Namibian people do it now? Well, what are they doing? What are they literally doing in the kitchen and doing in the garden? And this is what we want to see, how these people are going through it. Not just, of course, nature, safari, all of that, but what's the Namibian way? And that's something, it's a whole new ball game.
Yeah, absolutely. On that point, just very quickly, the American especially always talks about, my gosh, Namibia's got 11 different ethnic groups and languages and cultures and dances. And I mean, there's just so much to explore, so we have a lot to look forward to in terms of that. And guys, thank you so much for having me on the forum. I'll join every week, but I've got to go as well.
All right, now we just quickly hear from Karan. If we can also quickly say his thoughts.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah, I think it's important that we all touch base. It's the education side. All of this is great, but I think the first stage would be to look at as we are using technology, that we start putting the technology in place, the lodges that are open, that have specialized guides, and they actually start posting videos and the interesting information, because right now the kids can't travel. Once you do open, you need to get the tour operators involved, because there is a certain liability and risk involved in taking kids and people on a trip. So it's important that you also get the right people involved from a tour operator side, who's got the facilities, who knows the procedures and carries those risks. Because now outside business, who's used to just receiving the guest at their site versus now being involved in getting them there, does pose another angle and risk to our businesses, but that also gives opportunity to the operator. So I think, these things are important, and everybody must stay involved in, and that's opportunity for everybody to work together, and also business for everybody, and also limit your own risk. Because now it's great to jump in and say, I'm going to go grab some people on the side of the road, drive them to my lodge. Something goes wrong. You don't understand the logistics of that. So it's important that we all talk, and it's been great.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. Michelle, we'll chat on Wednesday again.
Thank you. Yes, great. Gerard, I just wanted to say, good point you made there. We can't do anything right now, and there are a lot of logistics involved. So, it's going to have to be worked on down the line. So,
Ingrid, if I can quickly call on you, I know coincidentally we have touched base because our kids are in the same class here in Soccer Point on actually getting them from point A to point B when it comes on class tours. But any thoughts on how one would be able to actually organize something like that, just in closing?
Not really. The problem is we tried already for school purposes to help the children. I personally, in my company, I don't own any big bus. We only have 4x4s, converted vehicles that take up to 9. So with the COVID regulations, if we have to have a meter or so between the children, I think the cost the cost per kilometer will probably be very high for children. Unless we have children that are, the parents are very wealthy and they want to offer them something else. So then very often, unfortunately, these children are in the private schools, and the private schools are going to start school again very soon. I mean, if they, I know that in Swakopmund, for instance, the private school Swakopmund is starting to do distance learning from next Monday. So it seems to be a bit difficult for me. I would like to help if someone asks, but I'm just afraid the cost will be very high. Just the kilometers. For instance, we've managed to take our cars off the insurance for this month. So that will mean for us to reinsure the car. And I mean, one trip will probably not enough to cover these costs.
Just to get the thoughts. Thanks so much.
But let's try thinking about it. It's nice to give us some food like that. I'm sure we'll come up with better ideas.
Thank you very much, Ingrid, for that input. You're more than welcome to join us next time as well.
Okay, thanks a lot. I'm also going to go now.
100%.
Have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good
Bye.
evening too. Bye.
Thank
Wilco.
you.
Hey, Prash.
Right. Yeah. Thanks,
Good.
Wilco,
Thanks,
for
man.
joining as well.
Awesome.
Now,
Yeah.
we'll see you again on Friday.
Definitely Friday. Yeah. Well done, guys.
Just on that, we're gonna do something. We're gonna do about something about technology and tourism on Friday.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome.
We'll
All
see you
right,
there.
cool. Okay.
Guys, thanks so much,
Cheers,
everybody.
cheers.
Chat Wednesday.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye.